best podcast, the Heidelcast.
In the great hall of the Justice League, there are assembled the world's greatest heroes, created from the cosmic legends of the universe.
Scott McDermott, Harrison Perkins,
And
Scott Clark.
their mission to fight injustice, to right that which is wrong, and to serve all mankind.
And now, Scott Clark.
Well, here we are. It's our first Superfriends Saturday on the Heidelcast. And I'm excited to be joined by two of my colleagues, two of my friends, Scott McDermott and Harrison Perkins. Good morning, man. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks.
First time, long time here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Scott's a longtime listener to a certain sports talk show. And you boys are both where?
Both in Michigan.
And what's the temperature?
Cold.
Feels like 11 up here in Bad Axe.
It was 13 degrees when I was driving this morning. The car thermometer said 13, so it's down there.
Well, the good news is your car started.
Well, I have learned the delights of having a garage.
Do you guys have to hook your cars up to chargers and heaters overnight to keep engine block warmers?
Nope,
No,
never
not
heard of
that
that.
bad.
Not that bad. Do they have plug-ins where you are? You can plug in your car when you park on the
A
street?
certain car company has them at the grocery store.
Yeah, I bet those cars work real well when it's 12 below zero. Yeah, tell us where Bad Axe is. You have to spell this for us, too, so that people will know that we're not saying something naughty.
Okay. If you look at the back of your hand,
I'm doing that.
the tip of your thumb is where Bad Axe is. So your hand, back of your hand is Michigan, and the tip of your thumb is where Bad Axe is. And it's spelled B-A-D-A-X-E, as in your axe is
Okay.
bad.
And where's Detroit on the back of my hand?
On your hand, it's at the base of your thumb.
Okay.
So that kind of joint where joins back into the rest of it.
And where's Grand Rapids? I think of it as below my ring finger. Is that too far left?
So probably in between your ring and your pinky. It's
web.
straight across from me. In fact, I was just over there last week. I was teaching a class at Puritan Seminary and was just over there. It is a direct straight shot on the interstate.
Okay. Before we progress to find out what you're doing and all that stuff, I want to encourage you, listener, to, as I always do, to subscribe to the Heidelcast at heidelblog.net. And you can subscribe in Apple Podcasts or wherever podcasts are found. And the easiest thing to do is just to download the app, the Heidel app. And that's in the Google Play Store and in the Apple App Store. So if you do those things, you won't miss any of this marvelous content that we are producing, such as this here program.
If the Heidelcast helps you, won't you help us keep it going? Please make the coffer clink by clicking on the PayPal link or by sending a check to Heidelberg Reformation Association, 1637 East Valley Parkway, number 391, Escondido, California, 92027.
Well, it's exciting to be with you guys this morning and kick off this new venture from the Heidelberg Reformation Association and the Heidelcast. So tell us a little bit about yourselves and where you're from, where you grew up. We'll start with you, Scott McDermott.
Yes, it's great to see you guys or hear you guys.
Well, we can't see each other.
I'm originally from San Diego, California, born and raised. Grew up culturally Catholic, nominally Catholic, Roman Catholic, that is. Not the good kind of Catholic. And in my 20s, I came to a Presbyterian church, stumbled into a Reformed Presbyterian seminary called Westminster. And there I met a guy wearing a Nebraska hat. And he said, "Hey, let's go out to lunch." And the rest is history.
And now you're on a podcast.
And I stumbled into a church, and Dr. Harrison Perkins was there, and he helped me pass my classes. And then now I am pastoring a church.
I think that was the other way around. I think I stumbled into a church where you were.
Yeah, maybe I got it backwards. Either way, he helped me pass my classes, and I made it through seminary somehow. And then I ended up in Bad Axe.
You didn't just make it through seminary somehow. You made it through twice. You earned
What?
yeah, exactly. You earned an MA. You left that part out. You earned an MA in historical theology, and we'll come back to that. But on whom did you write?
On George Gillespie, Scottish commissioner to the Westminster Assembly, and in particular, his dispute against the English popish ceremonies obtruded on the Church of Scotland.
All right. Well, I had the pleasure of reading that, and you've written some about that on the Heidel blog.
A couple of times, yes.
We need to get some more from you on that. I enjoyed your thesis. So
Makes one of us.
yeah. Well, as the producer of the thesis, it's not much fun. It's more fun to be done with it than to produce it.
Amen.
And then you left out another part of your kind of interesting story. You were at San Diego State University. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you ran into one of our grads who was teaching a course there.
That's right. Dr. Rita Chefalou was teaching there, and I was finishing up my Bachelor of Arts, and I came across her in a class. She was lecturing on world religions, and she did a class on the history of the church. And that was kind of what set me on this path, was my interest in the history of the church, which I actually didn't know existed.
Interesting.
So after San Diego State, she encouraged us not only to go to a Presbyterian church, she took us to a PCA church and said, here's where you should go. And then she encouraged us to move closer to Escondido and go to the seminary. And it all worked out. Very thankful for the Chefalous, Richard, who was a PCA minister, and Rita, who is, I think she did her work at Queen's College in Northern Ireland. I could be wrong.
Yeah, Belfast.
Union Theological College, which at that point was linked to Queen's University.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you grew up in a unique place. You grew up in rattlesnake country.
That's right. Rattlesnake, California, also known as Hamul, California.
Hamul. Spell Hamul so people will know.
Jamul.
And where is that?
Haven of the Hills.
Say that?
The Haven of the Hills.
Really? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is. It really is a haven in the hills. Beautiful out there.
Where is Hamul from San Diego?
From San Diego, it would be southeast, I would guess. I mean, it's southeastern San Diego County.
So, Harrison, tell us about where you grew up.
Well, glad to be here with you guys. I didn't know that Batman could have two Robins, but Scott and I are here with you, and at least I'm glad to be. So, Birmingham, Alabama is home for me. That's where most of my family lives. So where I am in Michigan right now, it's a lot warmer where I'm from, probably still hot. So from Birmingham, have lived a number of places though, around the U.S. and around the world.
That's a very short story. So did you
Left something out there, Harrison.
Did you grow up in the PCA in the South?
No. So I grew up in the PCUSA, and in college got involved with a group that took the Bible seriously and made me aware that I had not really understood much of it. And so whether or not I had true faith before that is an open question, but I'm thankful to believe the gospel today, certainly. And thankful to take the word of God more seriously today as well. But that was kind of a turning point for me, seeing a lot of friends, stuff in college, really involved in a church that believed really specific things and understood that the Bible taught lots of stuff. And so getting involved in that, I just was hungry for it, studied scripture more and more, then got involved, spent a little bit of time in a Baptist church, but then got involved in a PCA church called Briarwood in Birmingham, Alabama, and went there until I enrolled in seminary right after finishing college, actually.
This is the Heidelcast.
Where did you first go to seminary?
So I did 1 year at Westminster, Philadelphia, and then we weren't married, but married my now wife after the first year. Her family is, or at least her parents and her brother live in Northern California. And so personally and a few other things going on, it made sense to transfer out to Westminster, California, where I finished.
The temperatures in Escondido are a lot more like Birmingham than the temperatures in Philadelphia, probably.
I think they're very different. I mean, so yes, there was snow when I was in Philadelphia. Thankfully, I lived on campus, and so my commute was very short, just across the parking lot. But Birmingham is really humid. I found it ironic when we moved out to California. I think the day we loaded the moving truck, it was 102 degrees and just humidity that was off the charts. I mean, you could have snorkeled to work it was so humid. And then we drove out through the desert, which was amazingly hot. I've never gotten sunburned inside my car before that. And I don't mean the arm on the window kind of sunburn.
No.
I mean like to the collar of my shirt sunburn. So that was a new experience for me. And then so we get to San Diego, and it's, I think, 75, breezy. Is the most beautiful weather I think I'd ever felt, especially after Birmingham humidity and the desert of Texas. And people say, we're sorry, it's so awful right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what good weather is for you guys if this is the awful weather.
Yeah. The weather here is really, especially in the winter, is really spectacularly nice. We can get the last couple of years we had atmospheric rivers, or I'm not sure what the phenomena were, but it was pretty rainy the last two winters. But the powers that be in this state didn't see fit to capture any of that water, so it's dry
Not
again.
enough to fill up the
Reservoir, yeah. We're not building any reservoirs. We're not saving any money. And as you and I are recording this, things are rather dire in parts of the Los Angeles metro areas. So I don't. By the time the listener hears this, I don't know how things will have come out, but obviously there'll be a great lot of destruction and a lot of sadness, a lot of expense. And at this exact moment, something like 25 people have died or so in that fire. So it's terrible. But it is amazing we had a lot of rain for us. Portland and Seattle visited us for weeks on end. And it was a little frustrating to see all the, we're thankful for the rain. We need it because we live in the desert. What people don't quite probably realize is that everything out here, right up to the ocean, is desert. And it doesn't look like desert because we've hauled in dirt and we've grown stuff, and parts of it are green, and when we put water on it. But you just let it go for a week or two, and the coyotes and the black widows and the rattlesnakes and everybody takes over, and all that grass, the non-native grass, goes away. So we need the rain, but we didn't capture any of it, which is frustrating. And I don't know what the truth is, but someone told us we're not allowed even to capture it ourselves. No, which I think I kind of understand, just because you don't want to start dealing with mosquitoes and things. There are ways of dealing with that, but anyway.
Well, if the mosquitoes have vaccine in them.
This is going to turn into a political commentary podcast very quickly.
If the mosquitoes have vaccine in them, oh my! Don't get that started. The people on Reddit will run with that, and the world will never recover from that speculation. So. Well, okay. And what did you do immediately after you graduated from Westminster Seminary, California?
So I went to Belfast, Northern Ireland, and worked on a PhD in historical theology at Queen's University, Belfast, and served as an assistant pastor in a village just south of Belfast for the 3 years I was there. And when I finished that, I took a pastoral call in London. And so I served at the Free Church of Scotland congregation in London, which is London City Presbyterian. And so then I was there for 4 years, almost 4 years, and got to do some teaching on the side at Edinburgh Theological Seminary. So the London congregation is part of the Edinburgh Presbytery. And so when I would go up for Presbytery, I would get to do some lecturing there. And glad to do that, and enjoyed those years. And then in 2022, moved to Michigan because Scott McDermott was here. And I wanted to be where the party was. Took a call in the OPC to Oakland Hills Community Church, which is just outside Detroit. Our building is on 8 Mile Road for all of the culturally attuned.
Yeah. So what were you doing, Harrison, in Belfast?
So I did my PhD on James Ussher's Doctrine of the Covenant of Works. And my argument there was that really his Doctrine of the Covenant of Works, and I think Reformed theology's understanding of it in general, was kind of just a Reformed repackaging of some traditional ideas. like Adam's headship, natural law, the condition for works, original sin. All of these things are kind of really traditional ecumenical ideas within the Christian tradition. And Ussher brought them together, as many Reformed thinkers did, into this bundle called the Covenant of Works, to give a paradigm, or at least part of the paradigm, for how to understand our relationship with God in covenant.
What happened to your dissertation?
Well, that ended up as a book called Catholicity and the Covenant of Works. It's in the Oxford Studies in Historical Theology series. And if you struggle to fall asleep at night, I recommend it to you.
But if you're interested in the history of Reformed theology and covenant theology, Scott, how did you get to bad acts?
After seminary, we lived in Texas for a little bit, where my family now lives. And from there, we looked for a call, and we had a couple of opportunities. And the one that we decided to go with was First Presbyterian Church in Bad Axe. That's how it worked. Came up, interviewed, spent some time up here, ate some cheesy potatoes, which we don't have out west. And I think that was the deal breaker, was the cheesy potatoes.
Deal breaker or deal maker?
Deal taker.
Okay. they persuaded you the Lord was calling you to Bad Axe by feeding you with cheesy potatoes.
Yes, and up here they're pronounced cheesy potatoes.
Cheesy potatoes.
You've been there a while, haven't you?
This is our 7th winter.
Yeah, that's a while.
You know you're far north when you count the years by winters. So
That's it.
well, I feel your pain. I grew up in Lincoln and Omaha. Not in that
It's
order.
very flat as well. Correct.
Yeah. So is it flat where you are?
Very flat.
What's the major source of industry or business or revenue up there?
I think we are the number one sugar beet producer on the planet Earth.
Okay. So Harrison's
So
cracking
there's a
up.
lot of farms. That's real, sugar beets.
Oh, I thought this was going to push towards a shroot joke.
No, different beets. Those are different beets. This is real.
Is this an office
So
thing?
sugar beets? Nope, not at all. This is real life. This is a thumb thing. This is a Huron County thing.
Okay.
And in addition to farming, there's a lot of factories up here.
Oh.
And the other two big industries would be hospital, nursing, and so medical field, and then the school systems.
Okay. Do you eat sugar beets? I don't know that I've ever had a sugar beet.
If you've had a packet of sugar, like table sugar,
Uh-huh.
that comes from sugar beets.
Oh.
You don't actually eat the sugar beet. So it's funny because during the fall, during harvesting time for sugar beets, they've got these dump trucks driving around with these giant coconut looking things. And you'll see them on the ground all over the place. You think, is that a coconut or what's going on around here? No, those are sugar beets. And they take them and they melt them down and somehow they make sugar out of it. And then people pour them down their throats all day long.
Oh,
whether it's in
interesting.
your food or in your beverage, whatever it is.
So I'm old enough to have in my head, the C&H jingle, which you probably don't know. C&H, pure cane sugar.
C&H.
Pure cane sugar from Hawaii, growing in the sun, So that's what
Yep.
I thought all our sugar came from pure canes as opposed to
Nope,
corrupted
that's only
canes.
cane sugar.
Oh. Huh. I did not know that. So when my wife tries to get me to eat beets, I can tell her I've already done it.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
That is
frying
good
my
advice.
circuits a little. I thought sugar was cane sugar. Here
Only
we
when
are.
it's cane sugar.
See, now listener, you thought that this is just going to be three dummies sitting around saying worthless things. And as it turns out, maybe you learned something about sugar, that it comes from
that plus a lesson about sugar.
Yes, that plus an agronomy lecture coming up next on the Heidelcast Agricultural Network.
Yeah, most of the sugar that you see that's white,
Yes,
that comes from sugar beets. And then the sugar that's kind of brown,
yes.
kind of caramel looking, that's sugar cane.
Oh, so is it your sugar that we're not supposed to be eating now? Is that what the story is? Are you the people responsible for what we're all getting diabetes from sugar
As
beets?
someone who lives here, I'm not allowed to say anything.
It's like living in Laughlin, Nevada, and not talking about who runs the casinos. So,
and where people are buried.
yes, where people are buried. So, it'd be a shame if something should happen to your nice car. You know what I mean?
A lot of holes in the desert.
Yeah, that's true, boy. That is. Well, it's true. You remember when there was a terrible drought and Lake Mead started drying up, and they found cars and bodies, and they solved a bunch of crimes right just by looking around in Lake Mead as the water receded. So that's
amazing. No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. Well, you know who the mayor of Las Vegas is the wife of Oscar Goodman. And do you know who Oscar Goodman was? The late Oscar Goodman. He was the lawyer, one of the principal lawyers for a certain organization that shall not be named. You know, our friends.
Huh?
Yeah, I'm not naming any names. Our thing. It's that's how you translate it. Our thing. Anyway, true story.
For the listener, when I went to seminary, one of my favorite parts of going to class was hearing all of Dr. Clark's impersonations. He's also got a very good Irish accent. His Italian accent is wonderful.
I think the Irish beg to differ.
Well, they don't know how they sound, do they?
Faith, they don't. No, I don't. There's when we were in when we were in Oxford, we attended for the first year a congregation that was a multinational, a lot of expats. There were a few English in this congregation, but there were people from Scotland, and one of our deacons was from Ireland. So I enjoyed that very much. Nobody from Ulster, though, that I remember.
The Ulster Scots all came here.
Yeah, a lot of them.
You could get away with just throwing anything out as an Irish accent, because if they complain, you say, oh, it's a different dialect where we live. So they would talk about the American accent,
Yeah.
the singular American accent, and then they'd talk about different accents from Northern Ireland, like 3 miles down the road.
Yeah. There's only one American accent. So, which tragically, I'm afraid, is actually sort of becoming true. I'm always disappointed when students come, and especially from Texas, because there are 3 or 4 at least, maybe more than that probably. But so don't. I guess if you want to write a comment to complain, there's 24 recognized dialects in Texas, whatever. But I'm disappointed when people come from Texas, as students, and they have no discernible Texas accent. So it's like, what's the point? I wish people would retain their regional dialects. But
You should go to Tennessee, Alabama.
yeah,
If we were recording this late tonight, you could tell that I was from Alabama. It would slow way down.
Is this what happens?
Molasses would just start rolling out.
Is this because you're consuming adult beverages, or just fatigue brings it out?
Yeah, just tired, sick, sometimes when I'm angry.
Oh, interesting. Well, as you age, you will revert to your dialect with which you were raised. My mother's Southwest Kansas, south of Dodge City dialect, got stronger as she got older. I didn't hear it a lot from her growing up, except when she got angry or when certain sayings came out. But it was interesting as she got into her 70s and 80s. Then after a while it just came out. I don't think she was even aware of it. It just started talking like she's back in Dodge.
Well, Scott, you haven't told us where you're from and your story.
Well, yeah, people probably heard most of it. But listener, if you're new to the Heidelcast experience, if you're new to the Heidelcast experience, I was raised in Nebraska, eastern Nebraska, Omaha, and Lincoln. Born in Kansas. Learned to drive in southwestern Kansas. Learned to chew tobacco in southwestern Kansas. Don't spit out the window while you're driving a pickup unless you don't care about the color of your pickup. When you're chewing tobacco.
At what age did you learn how to husk corn?
I've never actually husked corn. When we were in high school, there were 2 jobs that people had, and one was to work in the cornfields or beans, walking beans. That was another thing that people did. And lots of kids did that, and they made a lot more money than I did. Though it was hard work. You get picked up in a bus and taken out to a field, and you're out there, and it's miserable and awful. But they got paid a fair bit, and I chose the easy job. I worked as a lifeguard for 2-3 summers and got paid nothing, absolutely nothing. All I got was probably skin cancer from sitting out there.
Worth it.
Yeah. I
When
don't
was
know.
in high school, in the summers, I worked in a mechanic shop that rebuilt engines. And my job was to take them apart. And I made $6 an hour. And I thought I was rolling in it.
You were $6 an hour. That's a lot. That's at the height of my earning power in college, working part-time. I was making about half that. So anyway, so that's where I grew up in Omaha, Lincoln, went to the University of Nebraska, go Big Red. I came out here in 84 to go to Westminster Seminary, California. And then there was
1984.
1984. What did I say? 1884?
In the 1900s.
Yes, in the we came out in the covered wagon, fought our way through the desert, and went to seminary. I took a call to Kansas City, Missouri, where I served as an assistant, an associate, then pastor, solo pastor co-pastor for 2 years, solo pastor for 4. Went to the UK for 2 years to work on a PhD. As we say in the States, they use a slightly different nomenclature there. And taught at Wheaton College for a couple of years, and then ended up back here in 1997, where I had been. And I teach at Westminster Seminary, California. I teach church history and historical theology, helped to plant a church in Oceanside, worked on that project for about 10 years. And I'm a minister at and a member in the Escondido United Reformed Church in Escondido, California. If you want to know more, go to heidelblog.net and click on what is it you click on? About. And there's more stuff there. So,
Which is your favorite class to teach?
the Reformed Confessions class, which you boys had with me. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I didn't. I had it with John Fesco because I was the
That's right.
other brand.
You were the other.
Presbyterian
You were
guys.
one of those. Okay. I see. It
I
seems
took
like.
it with both.
Oh, good for you.
Special.
Yeah, when I was in seminary, I took both classes. I had the Three Forms class with Bob Godfrey, and I had the Westminster class with Jim Dennison. Oh. I got a B in the Westminster class because I didn't finish Robert Paul's book, The Assembly of the Lord, which was exceeding dull.
The thing about polity, right?
Yeah, it's all about polity.
Yeah.
And I learned it was good. It was thoughtful. It was well researched, but it was just so, as John Cleese says in one of the Python sketches, dull. No, I don't think it's Cleese. Anyway, one of the characters on Python says, dull, dull, dull. Chartered accountancy is so, it's the chartered accountancy sketch. So dull. So I didn't finish it. But we had to go into his office and report on our reading orally. And I had to endure the shame of reporting that I had not finished the book. So I got a B.
Better than lying.
That's right. And at the end of the day, nobody really cares what grade I earned in that class.
Now the whole world knows.
Well, that's right.
At least all the people listening.
No, the whole world is listening.
So Harrison, I picture you as being in that class. So that shows you how fallible memory can be.
I took several of your class. I mean,
did.
I was in not only the ones I had to take, but I even chose to take some other ones too. So I was in plenty of yours.
You were. And you know why? I thought, okay, here, I can explain it. I think you took the covenant theology course, and that was in the same room as the confessions course. So
I did take that class.
So that's why
the paper that I wrote for you in that class turned into at least I don't know if any remnants are actually left of it, but that was the seed of what turned into my PhD thesis and the book on James Ussher.
Okay.
That's incredible.
Well, sometimes some good comes out of these things, regardless of my best efforts, right? Something useful comes out.
Heidelcast.
So before we sort of wrap up this introductory episode, by the way, listener, we're going to do this. We're going to try and do this every Saturday. This is going to be our new Saturday feature, Superfriends Saturday. So you want to adjust your schedule accordingly so that you don't miss this, right? Subscribe to the Heidelcast, wherever podcasts are found. Get the app. And if you do that, then it's just there on your phone, and you get a little number, a little red 1 or whatever, tells you, hey, there's new stuff on the Heidel blog, Heidelcast, and that way you'll know to listen. But you want to arrange your schedule accordingly. We're going to try to do this every Saturday, Lord willing. But so before we start to wrap this up, tell me what you're doing right now. Scott, what are you preaching?
In the morning service, we're going through the gospel according to Luke. And in our evening service, we're going through the Westminster Confession of Faith, and we're just wrapping up chapter 18, the Reformed Doctrine of Good Works. Come to find out, good works are good. Yes, it's true. I think 12, 13 sermons on it, and that's what I've come away with. If God says to do it, then it's good, so do it.
That seems fair.
Yeah. It took me 13 sermons, though, to get to that point.
Newsflash.
Good works
Good,
are good.
Good works are good. So I'm happy to hear that you have 2 services. That's exciting.
Oh, we've had 2 services.
Yeah.
And we have word sacrament prayer in both services every Lord's Day. Those are the ordinary means of grace, by the way.
Yeah, which was the series we did just before. Well, what are you learning from your series in the Gospel of Luke? Have you been changed at all in your thinking or ministry or in any way by preaching through Luke?
Surely in ways that I can't really quantify, but I really enjoy Luke. First, I went through Mark, and now we're going through Luke, and I have a great appreciation for the way Luke tells a story. It's been great. And I think we've been in it for 2 years now.
Wow.
And we've probably got 2 more years to go. I don't go fast. I take small pericopes, and I love the way Luke tells a story.
Both Mark and Luke were very skilled, and they're very different.
And very inspired.
It's almost like the Holy Spirit knows what he's doing.
And I would dare say that over these 2 years in Luke, I have been sanctified.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing, because our people, listener, if you're a consumer of sermons, you have one relationship to them. But if you're a producer of sermons, that's a different relationship. And they're both good, right? I know you guys enjoy probably hearing sermons and probably don't get to hear them all that often since you're actively preaching most every Lord's Day. And so in that regard, it's a real blessing just to sit in a service and not be responsible for anything and just, to be able to worship without worrying. Is the bulletin done? And are we on time? And all the other things that you think about when you're in the pulpit. But it's also a great blessing to be able to work through a book and, do your work, to translate and reading good stuff. What are you reading on Luke? Anything of interest?
You mean commentaries?
Yeah. Or, for example, do you know Ned Stonehouse's The Witness of Matthew, Mark, and Luke?
No. Is that worth a read?
Oh, absolutely. It's marvelous. Stonehouse doesn't get near enough credit. The Witness of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. I think that at least I have a first edition, and it's in 2 volumes, and so I don't know exactly the title, but Stonehouse didn't publish that many books. He shouldn't have any trouble finding it. It could possibly be titled The Witness of the Synoptics. I don't really know. But Ned B. Stonehouse.
As far as commentaries, I would say Darrell Box is probably the best.
Okay.
And Moo is also good. Darrell Bach is, let's see, that's the Baker Exegetical.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Did you look at I. Howard Marshall? See, I'm giving away my age.
That's an older one.
It is.
It's from the 1900s, I think, even.
Probably from the 1980s.
The previous century.
The previous century, yes. A theme is emerging from this podcast. Newsflash, Clark is old. Talk just for a minute about the value of preaching through a standard like the Westminster Confession.
There's a lot of value. First, they lay it all out there, and so you don't have to make anything up, right? You're saying, here is what we believe. Here's what the Westminster Divines have said. Here are their proof texts. And so I often joke and I say, I'm not making this up. Well, when it comes to the confession, this is a document that's almost 400 years old. I'm really not making this up. These are the things that Presbyterians and Reformed Christians have believed for a long time. And I think that's helpful to know my pastor is not just making this stuff up. It's not going to change if we get a new pastor. These documents have been around, they've lasted, and they're valuable. And so what I like to do is I take one of the bigger scripture references from, the citations at the bottom of the page, and I say, okay, I really see it here in this one. And we'll actually confess that chapter together or that paragraph together in the liturgy. And then we'll have the readings that come from all the citations, and then I'll choose that one big one, and then I'll preach on essentially just walking through the chapter and using scripture to explain these things. And I think it's been beneficial for me. We're now in chapter 18. I want to say we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
It's been great.
Is it bearing fruit in your people?
Well, I like to tease that my evening service is our small group. Because, there's like 12 of us. You take out Mrs. McDermott and there's, 10 people that want to be there.
Yeah.
And I see in those 10 people fruit, and they're understanding these things and they enjoy these things. I see fruit not only in my own life, but yes, in the people that come. Here's one additional thing. In our evening service, we sing only Psalms. And I knew you would appreciate that. I know you're not Psalms only, but those are the only ones that we sing. And we sing the Apostles' Creed.
Well, that's
for the
exciting.
Lord's Supper. So just wanted to throw that out there.
That's exciting.
It's possible. Can be done.
Can be done.
What would Jesus do?
Sing psalms. What did he do?
What is he doing?
Oh, that's a good question. He's interceding for us at the right hand of the Father. But we know that when he was here, he sang psalms. That was his songbook. That's glorious. I'm excited about that. You're laying a good foundation for the future of the church, too. So this is an older congregation that you're in. And so you're involved in the work of Reformation. You're doing what Semper Reformanda actually means, which is not to become Pentecostal or Baptist. No disrespect to our Baptist brothers and sisters, but people often use Semper Reformanda to mean we have to somehow leave the Reformation, leave the Reformed confession, and go off and add things to it that aren't Reformed, which is not what it ever meant. It's certainly not what it meant when it was originally formulated. But so that's exciting. You're actually bringing Reformation to the congregation. So Harrison, what are you working on?
So in the morning services, we're working through Genesis and just went through the passage where Abraham has to cast out Ishmael and Hagar. So kind of a tough one. And then in the evenings, we're 1st, 2nd, 3rd John. We're still in 1st John, but with the plans to do the 3 of them. And I think the thing that has struck me out of John's epistles that I had not caught in depth as I have as, working through them in detail, step by step, is how important the church is in 1 John. From the outset, it's Christology and ecclesiology are the 2 topics on the table, and he keeps circling around them both.
Okay. Remind me where you are in the evening. I mean, which part of the epistles?
So we just finished chapter 2 of 1 John.
Okay.
It took us several passes actually to get through. John thinks or writes in circles.
Yeah.
He starts a point, he develops it a little bit, but then he swings back to grab the beginning and develops it a little bit different way. And it took me a bit to get through the chapter where he's dealing with antichrists and apostates, which he says are the same. Yeah. And how it is the last hour, and then how it all hangs together.
Yeah. How did your people receive that? Because not everybody's, people do a lot of weird things with 1 John, and they don't always read it in its, original context, and they don't think about it relative to Christology and the denial of Christ's humanity and the issues that are most pressing to John, and it tends to get decontextualized. So when you sort of ground it in its context, people can sometimes get a little itchy. How has that gone for you?
I didn't get any pushback.
Okay.
At least they didn't bring it to me.
Yeah, you haven't heard about it yet.
Yeah. I think that it seemed to go to, I tried to map out that the popular notion of Antichrist as kind of a mythic, fantastic figure seems to be a combination of a specific interpretation of bits of Revelation combined with 2 Thessalonians 2, the man of lawlessness, and then this term, Antichrist, that appears only in John's epistles. Yeah. And yet we haven't often listened to what he explained as Antichrist, because Antichrist is anyone who denies the Father and the Son.
Yeah. And particularly anyone who denies Christ's true humanity. So interesting. I'm glad you.
A question about 1 John.
Certainly.
It's the first 2 chapters.
Dr. Perkins. What happens if we say we have no sin?
Then we're a liar, and
Amen.
The truth is not in us.
Amen.
But if you confess your sin,
What happens?
Then we have a mediator.
Yeah, God is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us
us.
from all unrighteousness. So how was it doing Genesis? Or how has it
I
been?
enjoyed Genesis a lot. So May have a book coming out on Genesis 1 and 2.
No.
Yeah.
No. Are you kidding?
Sabotucci's, column fives, spies! Frightening!
Harrison Perkins is publishing a book? That never happens.
And there's a tree on it. Oh, no, fruit.
Yeah, trees are apparently. I'm not an outdoorsy guy, and somehow trees are the thing.
Apparently your writing is outdoorsy.
News flash, Heidelcast News. Harrison Perkins has published a book. So,
And there's a tree on the cover.
so we're giving him a hard time because Harrison is a prolific author who has published more books in his short life than I have in my rather longer life. So is this out now? You just held it up. Is this available for purchase?
Well, you can purchase it. It should come into your hands in May.
Okay, what's the title?
The title is Created for Communion with God, the Promise of Genesis 1 and 2.
Oh, nice.
I mean, everybody loves Genesis 1 and 2. It's one of the perennial passages where we all camp and it captivates our imagination. But the particular way that I came at that was trying to remind us that, I mean, in the sermons, which may have had a particular relationship to the content in the book, is that these passages are about God addressing his people. And if we read them about being more about the creation than the creator, we've misunderstood the main idea. And I found that profitable for my own mind and heart. And I think that people appreciate it as well. So that is why that section turned into something published. But then the rest of it has been, I mean, I think that the whole book is really about the beginning of this story of God's covenant of grace.
Yeah.
I mean, the end of the story of the covenant of works that he made with Adam and its effects. And then the beginnings of the story of the covenant of grace. And have found it really fruitful, reflecting on, these are in some ways foreign seeming situations and events. And yet when we think about them, they're also just situations where God's people find ourselves behaving in similar ways, facing similar challenges, and need Jesus's help as we walk through them.
I really, really wish, and I'm glad you're doing this, that people would read Genesis in its context. Again, this is a big thing with me. I'm always pushing people to read this text in context. And so, the context of Genesis is it comes to the people after the Exodus in light of redemption. And basically, as you say, it's much more about God than it is about the act of creation, and certainly much more than the process of creation, about which we've been so fascinated since sometime in the 19th century, whenever William Paley and Darwin and those guys were raising questions. And particularly since the early 1960s, we've been just obsessed in our world, the P&R world, the confessional P&R world, with a series of questions that are very, very difficult to answer from the text of Genesis properly read in its context. So I'm excited about that. And you've already done some work on, just published another book on the nature of the pre-lapsarian, pre-fall world and academic book. So tell us again who the publisher of this forthcoming volume.
So that's Lexham Press is doing that one. Should be out in May. It is available Amazon on the Lexham website. You can find a description there.
And you could pre-order it.
Yeah, you can pre-order.
Okay. All right. That's very exciting.
Just ordered mine. It's coming June 2nd. I can't wait to see you, and you can autograph it. If I could ask one favor, can you slow down in your book writing? Because I cannot keep up with all of your books.
It is extraordinary. I mean, people get after me. They say, Clark, you write too much and you podcast too much. I can't consume it all. But then there's Harrison. Harrison says, are you kidding? I've got a new book coming out next week. Deal with it.
I think you write more than I do. I just don't put it between covers on paper. At least not yet.
forthcoming. There's some stuff forthcoming. But
Yeah, tell us about the thing coming out for you. That's the big one.
the commentary on the Heidelberg Catechism. Well, I don't really know very much about it. I did see the dust jacket. I meant to send that to you. I'll send it. I'll send it to you. They use a Gothic typeface. So I'm not sure exactly what I liked it at first, and now I'm having second thoughts. But it's probably too
I
late
think
to.
Lexham always does beautiful covers.
Okay.
I trust that it'll look great when it comes. That's an impressive work. That's 1,000 pages.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard to have something that's more thorough or informative about the Heidelberg Catechism in a generation, if not more.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. Just don't drop it on your toe. That's my caveat. Don't drop this thing on your toe, because you'll be in a boot. You'll be hobbling around for 3 weeks.
Read it sitting up. Don't hold it above your face in bed.
Yeah, it could suffocate you. That's entirely possible.
Heidelcast.
Well, yeah, I don't know when it comes out. I get information in dribs and drabs, so they're still gathering up the blurbs. So, thank you for yours. And another one came in the other day.
From
and
anybody, yeah.
so there's a couple more blurbs, I guess, that they're gathering up. And then there was somebody said something about February was some kind of a marking point in the process. You know how this goes, and. So I don't know, but sometime this year, I'm hopeful. Maybe before Christmas, it will come out. Maybe it will come out in the spring, in the summer, fall, somewhere in there. But probably not. I wouldn't think spring, but who knows?
People don't realize how much publishing is a effort in sanctification for patients. You finish something, and then it's a long time.
Well, and I was very, very late. They've been very gracious with me, because I signed a contract and there was a deadline, and I totally blew that deadline by multiple years, because I changed my mind about the nature of the project. It started off to be one thing, and then I thought, well, that's dumb. Why am I doing that? I should do a different project. And I just did it. And then I sent it to them. I said, sorry, I changed my mind. This is what I've decided to do. And
Psych.
yeah, exactly. They went with it. So blessedly. So they've been very kind and very patient. So I have no complaints whatsoever about the good people at Lexham. Oh.
I enjoy them very much. Yeah.
Well, thank you for reading it. You went through it page by page and found numerous errors. So anyway, I think there's one more round of copy editing, proofreading yet to do. So if you don't believe in original sin, listener, you haven't written anything and then tried to get it right? Proofread it, copy edited it, because that's prima facie evidence of the effects of depravity, the depraving effects of the fall, the corrupting effects of the fall. It's extraordinary how hard it is to get a clean piece of copy through an editorial process. You can have multiple sets of eyes look at a document, and still, when it comes out, there are mistakes and typos. So I truly, deeply believe in the noetic effects of sin, because I experience it on a regular basis. Well, brothers, I am grateful for your time, grateful for the opportunity to get together with you on Saturday. So this is Super Friends Saturdays, and we're going to do this, Lord willing, as I say, every Saturday. So, listener, if you're benefiting from the Heidelcast, and we do 5 episodes. We're doing this Super Friends on Saturday, and then another full episode on Sundays, and then we have episodes on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 5 episodes a week, plus one major article, every day. Well, 6 days a week, and quotations and other media. And even, by the way, a wonderful cartoon series drawn by
Sarah
who?
Perkins, my wife.
Sarah Perkins, your wife.
A talented lady, and still puts up with me.
A talented lady, really.
That's her greatest talent.
Yeah, exactly. So, check that out. Heidelblog.net / I think it's the -canons of Dork. It's the Canons of Dork, DORK. And it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Reformed people have a sense of humor. Although I have a friend,
Wow.
I have a friend who says to me, "I just don't get that comic strip." Anyway, The Canons of Dork, drawn by Sarah Perkins. And she does other things for us too. She does wonderful. She just redid the Heidelcast artwork, and I think we're probably going to have her redo the Heidel blog logo as well. So we're very excited about that. Well, boys, it's been fun. I'm looking forward to doing this some more. So it's nice to do a get to know you episode, and we'll figure out what we're doing next week. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow for more from the Heidelcast, brought to you by HeidelbergReformationAssociation.org. Don't forget, when the coin in the coffer clinks, the cost of bandwidth shrinks. Copyright Heidelberg Reformation Association. All rights reserved. This is a Heidel Media production.
The best podcast